So Ed Boone actually put out a tweet like a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, where he was talking about an actual like interest in an MK remake, and I believe the games that he gave was MK Deception, Shaolin Monks, MK9, and then MK2 were the options that he gave of which one people would like to see a remake of. But as we know, there's like tons of other Mortal Kombat games that some people say don't count. But yeah, if you guys had to choose like a MK remake, which one would it be? And or would you even want to see a MK remake at all? Do you think none of them need one? So starting with you, Mr. Greatest of all time.
MK3 for me all the way, for sure. Second close would be Shaolin Monks. Shaolin Monks was a great game. I'm not sure why they stopped making that game or games in that vein. Because at that time, Shaolin Monks was actually better than the fighting games they were making, and it actually had a versus mode that was a lot more fun than the fighting games that they had at that time. I think Shaolin Monks came out around the time of Deception, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere in the 3D area, Deadly Alliance or Deception. Um, I want to say it came out before Armageddon, but yeah, MK3 for me. I definitely want to. I just love that. That's my favorite MK. Just the way the combos work, the running sounds, just the hit sound, like all that stuff was just that was prime time Mortal Kombat for me. MK trilogy especially, just all the characters. You had Chameleon, all the stuff going on. So if I could get a remake of remaster of MK3, that would be awesome. Now people saying some don't count. I guess actually I want to add mythology to that list too because mythology is not the best game. We all know that. But as a kid, sometimes your judgment is a little different. So at the time, it was just fun because it's an MK game. Oh, it's a side-scrolling adventure MK game with Sub Zero, and Sub Zero was one of my favorite characters because as a kid, ninjas. You like ninjas, blue and the color blue. So mythologies, I would definitely like to see a revamp of that. But I think people probably won't count those maybe because I guess I don't know what people will base their criteria off of not counting an MK game. So maybe games like Mythology, Special Forces, which was just a load of terrible game design and game that game was terrible. So if that game was to get a new treatment, I wouldn't mind seeing it because Special Forces was terrible. And Special Forces was actually the game that Tremor originated from, which we late many years later we finally got as a character in Mortal Kombat X. But yeah, MK3 for me all the way, all day. I don't. The 3D games are okay, Deadly Alliance and Deception, but I wasn't a fan of them. Armageddon was a big letdown. The fatalities in that game were atrocious. Like I don't know what was going on. It's like just take the wrongs off and beat him with it. Like this is the same fatality over your creative fatality. It's the same thing. Take his
Oh
leg off,
yeah.
beat him. Take his arm off, beat him. Like what? So if they would do something different with it, I'd be cool with it because the whole draw of Armageddon was it's got all the characters in all the Mortal Kombat. They all in one game. That's cool, but make sure the game can't be trash though. I don't care if you got a game called Street Fighter Extreme and it's got every character from every game guest starring Terry Bogard. If the game is terrible, I don't want to play it. So MK3 for me.
I think for me, I would probably go with the game that Devin just mentioned for the game that should be remade. I would say Armageddon, just because like I feel like in the current state of things, I think they could really give that game the proper treatment now. I don't know what was going on back in the day. Like was NRS like involved back then, or was it still Midway
That
making
was
the
midway. That was still midway,
game?
I think.
Yeah, so I mean, we could get like I mean, I'd like to see what NetherRealm Studios could do with a game like that if they were just like, hey, we're just going to put everybody in the game and we're going to put our own spin on this game. I mean, because like you were saying before, Devin, it's like they can take these older games that weren't done properly, like and some of the older games that weren't done properly, and redo them like way better. I would be down for that. Like that's the kind of stuff I like to see because there's some games that it's very often that you see a game get made and it's like that was the only chance, technically speaking. You feel like that was it, like that was the only shot that game had at ever having any kind of fans. at getting any kind of popularity or anything like that. But I mean, in this day and age, especially like when you have like games that are even decent that are good, like the Yakuza games were pretty good, but they were like they have like the Yakuza Zero, Yakuza Kiwami, which is basically a remake. Like it's pretty much a remake. Yakuza Kiwami 2, which is pretty much a remake, and those games were great. You know, like those were games were decent, were pretty good, that were made into even better games, especially when they tied them to like the story starting in Yakuza Zero. So these are like we're in the age where people can just take old games and retool them and make them into better games. I would say that would be the number one on my list. Number two, I would like my what's called here is that I would definitely say anything from MK3 onward. I would think that those would, for as far as I'm concerned, those would also be games that would qualify. I don't really. I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. To everybody out there, I have no interest in seeing anybody redo the first two Mortal Kombat games at all. Like it's almost pointless. They're all the really big, the really good character rosters, in my opinion, showed up from MK3 onward. Like the ones with MK1 and 2 were cool. The ones like when they started putting characters like Sector, Cyrax, me and Devin talked about this before. Like Sector, Cyrax, Cabal, Striker, you know, like Ermac, like Smoke, like all those characters weren't in Mortal Kombat 1 and 2. Those were in 3 onward. So like if we're going to do remakes, I think we should be remaking like games from 3 onward. Like, but specifically, in my opinion, we should be remaking Mortal Kombat Armageddon, like especially under the NRS banner. I mean, especially since we have all these new characters now, so we can take all the old characters, put them in the game, retooled, and then take the new characters, put them in the game. And I mean, I'm completely 100% down for that, man. Which game was the game where you know what? I'm not even going to go into that right now. I'll just say, Mortal Kombat Armageddon and everything from Mortal Kombat 3 onwards. Please don't redo Mortal Kombat 1 and 2. That seems to me like it'd be a waste of time.